Thank you, Frank. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our regular scheduled board meeting for this Monday, February the 24th. The time is now 6:04 p.m., and we are going to call our meeting to order. If I can have roll call, please, Madam President. Madam Secretary.
VP Bowman.
Present.
I'm present. Trustee Dooley.
Present.
Trustee
Present.
Gross.
Present.
President Hannah.
Present.
Trustee Miller.
Present.
Treasurer Terry.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're gonna watch that shit.
I have an amendment to our agenda before we go through the approval. If we can remove from our agenda information from the superintendent and administration, discussion item 2A, renewal of financial advisory services agreement to Robert Beard and Company, as well as action items A, approval of renewal of financial advisory services agreement to Robert Beard and Incorporated. And we'll also be removing from the agenda under the regular working agenda, finance items under discussion 2A and B, tax anticipation note resolution, as well as the authorizing resolution bond 2020 Series 3, and for action items, approval of the tax anticipation note resolution, as well as B, approval of authorizing resolution bond 2020 Series 3.
President Hannah, can I ask why we are going to change the agenda?
Yes, we are changing the agenda because our Assistant Superintendent of Business and Finance, he's out ill, and he's not able to present on these items.
Okay.
All right, can I get a motion to accept the amended agenda, please?
Before we go, I would like to make a motion as well to amend the agenda, to bring board comments to the front.
Board comments?
Yeah, to move board comments from the end of our agenda and bring them up.
Public comments or board?
Public comments, I'm sorry, thank you for the correction.
Point of order. Madam Chair?
Yeah.
That's something that we would have to discuss in board governance.
Okay.
That was changed into a policy because in 2020, the actual comments were done at the beginning, and then the board approved another policy to change it to have it at the end. So we can discuss that in policy committee, something to discuss in policy committee to bring back, because you guys weren't here.
Right,
But
we were
those
not.
who, myself and Trustee Bowman and Smith was here, and that matter was put into a policy to change.
So it's a poly, I didn't
Yes,
in
that
reading.
was- Yeah, that was changed back in 2020. And so that's just my suggestion.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll continue with the, getting the motion to amend the agenda with the removal of the items that were mentioned.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by VP Bowman and supported by Trustee Gross to amend the agenda with the specified removal of items. Any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
We're scheduled for, what's our next board meeting?
March 3rd.
March 3rd. This information will return on the agenda that day, or are we looking to go out further? Because I know there's specific things that has to be done with
The budget.
for the budget.
Right, so we're hoping that he should be back, but Dr. Leverett will let us know if that's not the case.
Is the anticipation that we put it on the agenda for the 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Dooley.
Yes.
Trustee Gross.
Yes.
President Hannah.
Yes.
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Treasurer Terry.
Yes.
VP Bowman.
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Thank you. And now if I can get an approval of the amended agenda, please.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Trustee Gross and approved by VP Bowman, supported by VP Bowman, to approve the amended agenda. Any questions?
I have a question going back to
the motion that trustee Dooley put on the floor to move the comments, the public comments to the beginning of the meeting. I reviewed the policy. If anybody can pull up the policy that states that it is of the board to have them. I haven't seen a policy. Maybe that was just a procedure that you guys have been following, but I haven't seen a policy of that. So if that is so moved by trustee Dooley, then I would for sure second that. We can take it to the board, but I didn't receive a policy. So if someone could pull that policy up and show it to me, then we can go from there.
We already on.
The motion on the floor is regarding the approval of the amended agenda, and we've already moved past that motion. All right, any other questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Dooley?
Yes.
Trustee Gross?
Yes.
President Hannah?
Yes.
Trustee Miller?
No.
Trustee Terry?
Yes.
Trustee Bowman? I'm sorry,
Yes.
VP Bowman. And I'm voting yes. That passes.
I want to retract my vote. I made a mistake. I should have stated no.
Okay. Trustee Dooley. That passes 5-2.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on down the agenda, we are at our awards and recognition. We are good with that. Recognition, again, good evening, trustees, good to see you. Now moving on to our consent agenda items. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by VP Bowman and supported by Treasurer Terry to approve the consent agenda. Any questions?
Yes. I sent an email on February 17th at 3:10 p.m., and we briefly discussed it. The policy 3210 is actually for staff ethics, and the policy for the consent agenda is 0166.1, so this form is inaccurate, so I can't support it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments regarding the consent agenda? All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Gross?
Yes.
President Hannah?
Yes.
Trustee Miller? Oh, no. Trustee Miller?
No.
Treasurer Terry?
Yes.
VP Bowman?
Yes.
I'm voting yes. And Trustee Dooley?
No.
That passes 5-2.
All right, thank you. Moving on down to information from Superintendent and Administration. Dr. Leverett, the meeting is yours.
Thank you, President Hannah.
Button up.
Yeah, it is.
It's on.
Testing. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hannah. Good evening, trustees. At this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Kevin Sanders and the communities and school staff. They have done a great job with the work that they have done over the past years in our schools, and we look forward to continuing to have them as great partners. So at this time, Mr. Sanders and communities and schools, thank you.
All right, good evening, board, and community. We are so delighted to be here. My name is Sarah Sanders, and I'm the Chief Program Officer for Communities and Schools of Michigan. And Kevin Sanders and I will be presenting tonight briefly, just to give you some insight on the things that we've been doing in the district for the past several years. And we also want to use this opportunity just to share some highlights and gratitude for your collaboration, as well as the collaboration of the school and district staff. We could not do what we do without your support and without the warm welcome that the district and the schools have given to us. So with no further ado, we do have some slides to share. Are we okay for about 10 minutes? Is that what we were told? Okay, perfect. All right, so again, we are Communities and Schools. We were originally scheduled to present to you all last Monday night, so unfortunately, today, several of our staff that would have presented had prior engagement, so they're not here. However, they did send us information that we will share. But just by way of introduction, the coordinators, who we call student support coordinators at the schools, are Darnell Jefferson, who's at the high school, Mr. Kevin Sanders at the middle school, Toye Crawford at Walt Whitman Elementary, and then the program director for the Pontiac district is Cassie Clark. So we will be sharing on their behalf tonight, but we did want to acknowledge and give them a shout out for helping to prepare this presentation. So the values that we hold at CIS of Michigan are collaboration, equity, accountability, excellence, and integrity. And as I'm looking at the kind of signs around the walls here, I know that they align very much with those of Pontiac. For context, I actually started my career with CIS of Michigan as the student support coordinator at Pontiac High School. So working in the district back in 2019, starting then, I see the alignment and I see it to this day as I've moved through the roles and as I work with Kevin and our other coordinators. We really appreciate when we can work in districts that align with our values, and Pontiac is definitely one of those districts. The mission of CIS is to surround students with a community of support to empower them to stay in school and achieve in life. You can also see our North Star and our beliefs written on the slide there, so we'll leave it up for just a moment. But one of the things I do want to highlight is that we really work with students to empower their student voice so that they can choose what success looks like to them. So when we work with a student, we aren't prescribing to them exactly what they need to do to be successful. We're asking them, what does success look like to you, and how can we help you through your school journey through K-12 so that when you leave this district, when you leave this building, you're equipped to succeed beyond. So for some background, CIS of Michigan has been in Michigan for over 23 years. Our state office has existed since 2011. Like I said earlier, we have been in Pontiac since 2019. So the fall of that school year is when we first began. We were first only at the high school, and then due to the success of that collaboration, we ended up in 2 more schools. One day we'd love to be in all of the schools, but for financial reasons, we have to slowly scale up. But right now we are in Pontiac High School, Pontiac Middle School, and Walt Whitman Elementary. There are also 2 other affiliates in Michigan of communities and schools, and there's one in Kalamazoo and then one up north. So for our model, we have 3 tiers of support, and the way that it works is Tier 1 is considered whole school supports. Those are services that are open to any student in the building. So when our student support coordinators design their support plan for the year, they have a certain number of Tier 1 services that they plan out. Those services are determined by the needs of the district and the school, and they're aligned with the school improvement plan or the school support plan. Those things could be school-wide assemblies, anti-bullying campaigns, food pantries. Depending on the needs of the school, we determine what those will be. Every school also, as a Tier 1 support, has a basic needs closet, so you might see these, and these are often done in collaboration. If the district already has basic needs supports happening, we'll work to enhance those and to bring in even more supplies for students so that within each building, every student can have access to school supplies, hygiene items, food if they need it, for free of charge. Tier 2 supports are targeted small group programs. So those are lunch bunch programs, mentoring groups, tutoring groups, things that are small groups of students working together. And then Tier 3 is individualized support. So in each school, there are 35 to 40 students that have been identified by the student support coordinator in collaboration with the administration of the school. And these are students that could use a little extra support. So what those students on the caseload get is a needs assessment to really figure out where are the students' strengths as well as their areas for improvement, any gaps that they might have. And then we make a support plan to support that student individually throughout the year to reach a goal that we then progress monitor throughout that year. This is done in collaboration with social workers, behavior specialists, their teachers. There's constant communication happening so that as we're case managing those students, we're checking in with them biweekly, checking in with them monthly, and making sure that they have all the supports they need. So this is how we work with case management. And just as you can see here on the model, we do the needs assessment process with each school at the beginning of the year so that we can find out from the district and building leadership what their priorities are for our services so that we can tailor them specifically to that school. We are a data-driven organization, and we'll get to that data in a little bit. But we take data at every progress monitoring, which is each quarter, so that we can monitor and adjust our plan and the supports we're giving, similar to the way that you would adjust for a student when you're grading their assessments at the quarter period. You can see what do we need to do to help support that student more. We do the same thing with the school plan. So I'm going to hand it over in just a moment to Kevin, who's going to take us through impact, but I just want to briefly share a few highlights from our data. So this is from 22-23, and we can provide data from 23-24, and we'll have 24-25 at the end of this school year. But currently, we were in 73 schools, and you can see the case-managed students that we served. And just some numbers on the Tier 1, 2, and 3 supports that we've given. And we can send this all to you digitally later, of course, too. And then just some data to highlight and celebrate the goal achievement of the students that we support with case management. We've seen really great progress. Most of our students make progress towards, if not meet their goals by the end of the year. And so I'm going to hand it over to Kevin, who's going to talk to you about what that actually looks like in the schools on a day-to-day basis, some of the programming that we've brought in to help students work towards those goals.
All right, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Superintendent, board president, to all the trustees, and all those in the audience, thank you. So as Sarah mentioned, we have the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So these next slides that you're going to see will explain better what these tiers mean. And I want to admit, this is my 4th year with CIS. I was not a fan of data. But my colleagues and the leaders said, Kevin, you have to have data. I think it was just putting it in, but once we saw the numbers and saw the effect that it had, it made a lot of sense. So I'm going to share Walt Whitman, my colleague Toye, and we can go to that next slide. Toye is the Tier 1 queen. She is amazing when it comes to our Tier 1 supports. And if you look, $84,000 worth of value in resources. And that's just from community partners, that's working with churches. I mean, it's just amazing. I actually attended one of her events where you're going to see a picture a little bit later. But Toye provides services for the majority of the students at Walt Whitman. A lot of the programs that she saw, and that's the one that I went to, serving them food, not only just turkeys for Thanksgiving, but throughout the year, working with grocery stores, providing the kids with snacks, and just seeing the family engagement, families showing up. I've never seen a low attendance at her events, and that's pretty huge. And so if you look at this, and that one of the major areas, if you see bright in the yellow, is food. And that is one of the major needs that they've had with the students at Walt Whitman. So not just giving them food at the school, but she's also been able to provide groceries for students on Fridays and send kids home with bags of groceries. And that's just phenomenal to see. And then what that did was it built relationships with the families. And so now when Toye sends a letter out that she's having an event, the families, all they said was, how can you help us at home? And she found the solution, so that's a pretty big highlight with that. And if you go to the next one, you see the pictures. And if you look at the bottom, these two bottom pictures just is one of the examples of her family engagement she had. I believe it was during Christmas time. All the students got bikes, backpacks. She had a barber there cutting hair. It was kids everywhere, families everywhere. I actually pitched in and helped serve the food, but to see the smiles on these families' faces and the kids enjoying themselves, it made them want to come back. And so they bragged about it. And some of the kids wanted to ride their bikes through the building. We couldn't let them do that. But just the excitement. A lot of kids didn't get a lot of things for Christmas. And so Toye's program at Walt Whitman, she spent at least 2 or 3 months building up the sponsorship so that these kids could have gifts. And they did not know. They didn't know anything. So to walk in that gym and see all those gifts and presents, it was worthwhile seeing. All right, so that's just one of the highlights with that. And then if you go to the next slide, if you see, they have a washer and dryer. So instead of sending the kids home because their clothes are dirty or whatever the case may be, not only the washer and dryer, but clothes that have been donated. So she has worked with various organizations in Pontiac, Value World, Salvation Army, with local churches, dropping off coats and socks and underwear so that the kids don't have to be sent home, because that would affect the attendance. And so there's a clothing pantry that indicates the kids come to school if they have an accident or if they have a rip in their clothes. There's a pantry where the kids can literally come in, and the parents can shop for clothing, and I think that's pretty good as well. The next slide. We could actually go to the next one. I'll let her talk about the library next time she's here. The middle school, which I am excited to talk about. Pontiac Middle School is I call it my second ministry, if I can say it that way. Every single day, I probably would say I have about 40 to 50 students that are coming through my office, whether it be for snacks, toiletries, soap, deodorant, whatever the case. And then we have students that come in just needing to cool down. One of our biggest resources have been one-on-one support. So Toye is more of the tier 1 support, providing services for the whole school. At Pontiac Middle School, our focus has been on tier 3, focusing one-on-one. We have a lot of students that's at the middle school dealing with social, emotional issues, struggles at home. I had one student come in today that was, on a scale of 1 to 10, they were on 50. So they went to 3 different classes, upset and angry. It took the third-hour teacher to realize how upset the student was, and the first result was to send him to the office and write him up. But thank God he was one of my caseload students. As soon as the teacher said the name, I said, send him straight to me. So the student comes into the room, and I didn't ask any questions. I said, go to your spot. And the spot is a little bean bag. I said, first, go get you 2 bags of chips and a juice and go to your spot. He went there, and I let him put on his earphones, and within 15 minutes, he came back, said, Mr. Sanders, I'm ready to talk. And just so happened that due to the temperatures outside, the heat was cut off at home. Mother's been struggling financially, and so dealing with that. I'll just put it that way. A lot of issues at home. And so coming to school, I let him work in my office for the rest of the day because he just did not feel comfortable going back out. But that's just one example of the 40 to 50 students that's coming through the office at Pontiac Middle School to receive their support. And so if you see basic needs, we are so thankful. Winter Circle Church, Welcome Missionary Baptist Church, New Springfield, many churches have stopped by the school weekly, dropping off coats, soap, personal hygiene items. We received literally, I had the students count them today. We have a basket of 500 pairs of socks. Something that we look over every day, but you would not believe how many students are coming to school with no socks on. And a lot of students are coming to school with the same socks they wore the previous week. We've had students with blisters on their feet because the socks were dirty. And so thank God for our teen health center right next door that we can send the students to. And so coming to the CIS office, we're able to see the issue, see whatever the problem is, and send them where they need to go. If we didn't have that, then students would be sitting in class with clothes dirty, blisters on their feet, no one to really help them with their need. If you go to the next slide, every Friday at Pontiac Middle School, we have what we call Friday move-up meetings. And these meetings consist of all of our K-Spanish students coming down, and we talk about what we call them roses and thorns. I don't know if y'all ever heard of roses and thorns. What was your thorn this week? And one thing that I appreciate is September and October, you had to pull it out of the kids. But now that we threw in incentives and we're trying to teach them accountability, the students throw those hands up quick. Mr. Sanders, I cussed my teacher out this week. I said, well, what could you have done differently? I should have thought about it before I got angry. I didn't have to say that. And so that student saying that is spread throughout the room, and it made it a lot easier. So we talked about that, and then after that, we do incentives. Now, a lot of people reward students if they go from, say, an E to an A, or a C to a B, or whatever the case. But with these students that we have, when they first came into the program, they were averaging at a 0.1 GPA. Or a 1.2 GPA. So they already had the stigma of failing all their classes, being suspended every day. And so what we have in the board is we have a chart, a racetrack. And the goal is not to get to the finish line. I know a lot of people say the finish line. I just want you to get to the next step. So every Friday when they come in, the goal is to go from, all right, if you had a 79, I need you to get to an 80. Go to 80 and 81. And so by doing this, I'm being realistic with their goals. I am excited to announce that right before Christmas break, actually we came back in January, out of 35 students, 31 students went over and above their academic goal, their behavior goal, their suspension, not getting suspended. And so they don't know it yet, but this Friday we're having a big party for them because I asked them, I just wanted 10 students. 31 students reached their goal, and so I'm so proud of that.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you. Last but not least, if you go to this, we're going to show a video. I'm really big on social emotional learning when it comes to our young people. And I saw this project. It's called What's on Your Plate? And I'm a food man, so I have to find analogies to have to do with food. But we had the kids come in, and I passed out the plate, so they thought we were about to eat something. And so I said, no, we're about to do an art project. And I said, whatever's on this plate is what you're going to serve to somebody else. And that's the analogy that I gave them. And I said, I want you to put whatever you could say about yourself, your character, your attitude, I want you to put it on that plate. And whatever you put on there is what you're going to serve somebody at your table. So I'll let you, it's like maybe about a minute. I want you to see this video and you'll see what we did. Oh, does it play? Oh, it does play. Okay. All right. So we'll go to that one. All right. Okay, all right, and we'll go to and then the high school. Darnell Jefferson is at our high school. Darnell is our tier 2, and he does amazing supports with students, with smaller groups of students within his caseload, dealing with behavior issues, attendance issues, and Darnell has done a phenomenal job creating podcasts. The students are into music, and they're into videos, they're into media, and so Darnell is meeting them where they are, and they're allowed to come in and work on podcasts and commercials, and he's literally brought his entire studio to the high school so that students can be engaged, and so these are some of the results. Over $16,000 of resources that have been given to the high school as a result of Darnell's work, and I'll pause there.
All right, and we can advance to the next slide, and we are going to wrap up now, but just want to highlight for you some of the things that are happening. There's so much more that we can share about. We will also send this PowerPoint digitally so that you can all have access to it. If there's ever a need for data, we have tons of data, more than even was just on the slides. So we welcome you to reach out directly at any point or through Dr. Leverett, who we meet with quarterly. But we wanted to take this time just to highlight so that you are in the know about what's happening. And like I said, we could not do this work without the district and without the extremely generous and involved community of Pontiac, because what we do is not done in isolation. We're partnering, we're brokering services. We don't do any of this alone. We serve as kind of that hub of the wheel, and so we are kind of that central organization point, but without your support and without the support of Pontiac, we absolutely could not do this. So we're just honored and privileged to work here. It's a joy to be part of this community. And so as a thank you from CIS, we are, Kevin is passing out some just tokens of our appreciation, and we hope to continue doing this work long-term in the community. So thank you so much. And I know we might not have time, but if there is any time, we have Q&A. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, anybody have any questions or comments for our presentation? Trustee Dooley?
First, I'd like to just thank you guys for what you do for the community, and I'm glad to see that students are at the forefront, that we're trying to create the total child. I'm just curious, with your data, have you seen the correlation with academics increase for those students? And I know they may not have gotten to proficiency, but you should see some growth. Are you charting the growth? And attendance, has attendance increased for those students involved?
Yeah, so we do that on an individual basis, and we also can pull reports that show aggregated data, so we can definitely send that over to you for whatever time period you're looking for. As an organization statewide, we did see attendance and academics go up last year, but we can, at any point, we can pull like a specific group of students and see their improvement. And if they did not reach the ultimate goal, we can also see how close did they come. Last year, over 90% of all students made progress towards the goal, even if they did not meet the goal. And so we count that as a win as well. Obviously, the goal is to meet that final metric. But we have seen it with attendance and academics as well as behavior in all three categories.
And as it relates to the student that did not have utilities, please contact Catholic Community Response Team, and we will work directly with those families that need that assistance in keeping their utilities on, or whether they're in need of eviction prevention, as well as a security deposit for someone new.
Absolutely.
Somewhere new. So please contact me at Catholic Community Response Team.
Thank you so much for that, Kevin. I'm going to write that down and send you an email. So we'll definitely do that. Thank you. Any other questions that we can answer?
Any other trustees have any comments, questions? Yes, Bibi?
Not so much a question, but thank you all so much for providing services to our youth, because as we know, the community that we serve when children come to school, oftentimes they're getting a break from home life, and having someone fill those gaps in those spaces. Thank you all for the work that you do.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we know that this school district in particular cares so deeply about the students, and so just being able to be part of that support network. I appreciate your words. That's very nice. Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions? No?
How many kids are you dealing with now?
How
That you
many
have it total in the middle school that you have?
case managers?
Caseload of?
We're at 35.
35? 40?
Now, that's case managed.
Case managed.
Now, non-case managed, I would say right now about 78.
Okay, that's the number I was looking. Okay, thank you.
All right, good.
Needed service.
I just wanted to thank you, Communities in Schools. Thank you, Kevin Sanders. Thank you to the staff at Pontiac Middle School. Thank you to the staff at Pontiac High School. Thank you to the staff at Whitman for your leadership, for your dedication, all of the partners. I have seen all three of these programs in action, and they directly benefit our students as it relates to their social emotional learning, as it relates to their academics, their attendance, and behavior. We look forward to continuing this partnership. It has been a godsend. It has been around for years, and it continues to yield results that in the end best meet the needs of our students. So I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Did everyone get a bag?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Dr. Leverett, back to you.
Thank you. At this time, I will have Jeff come up. We want to discuss E-rate network electronic switching, a partial refresh. Jeff.
Thank you, Dr. Leverett. Good evening, Board. Thank you for having us tonight. I also have Sydney Pershon. She's our new Senior Technology Coordinator with the district, so I wanted to make sure we introduced her to the Board as well. We have two projects for the Board to consider tonight. The first one is the E-rate network switching partial refresh. This is an E-rate project where we get funds through the federal government to reimburse us for part of our networking projects. We're going to replace 29 switches in the district out of our 78 switches, I believe we have. And this will allow us to keep our network up and running, keep it modernized. The bids were submitted through the E-rate program. We had 3 responses, or 3 vendors submitted proposals. 2 of them were products that we currently use. 1 was another product. As you can see in the bid tally, the low physical bid was a different product. It's not fully compatible with our network switching. It would cause us to have some different software, change our configurations a little bit, so we deemed it not compatible and not meeting our bid responses. If we were doing a full network refresh, that might have been a different option, but since it's a partial, it didn't match and align with what we're trying to accomplish in this project. So our lowest qualified bid was Intercom TSG at $119,850.84. We've done business with them in a number of different areas, not only with Pontiac, but throughout the county. So we have a good relationship with them. They are just providing the hardware. Actually, David, our network engineer, is going to be doing all the installation of the product, so we're saving the labor cost and doing it in-house. And once we're done, we'll submit that for E-rate reimbursement. We anticipate about $35,000 coming back from the federal government. That's all we have left in this funding cycle. And the E-rate program hopefully will reset again next year, and we'll take a look at the next round of projects.
Thank you.
We hope.
If there's any questions on that particular project?
Trustees, anyone have any questions?
How soon you start?
Go ahead.
We'd start after April. This is the earliest we could begin. Most likely a summer project because it's a partial.
Trustee Dooley?
How long has this been going on? Because I have not had an opportunity to speak with you, your staff, interim superintendent, or the board president regarding this, and then I'll be expected to vote on an E-rate bid. when will we have an opportunity to sit down so I can ask questions and you facilitate my thinking so I can represent the 7,617 people that voted me in?
I defer to Dr. Leverett as far as scheduling any meetings, and President Hanna. The refresh cycle goes on every approximately 5 years. That's about the lifespan of a switching project. So we periodically bring the equipment forward in that refresh cycle.
Before I would cast a vote, I would need to definitely sit down with those that can facilitate my thinking in order for me to have adequate information and an opportunity to ask questions and engage to see how this will best benefit our students before I cast a vote.
Do you have specific questions I can answer, Ms. Dooley? I can answer many.
I can't ask any questions because I haven't had any information except what I have been reading myself. And because I'm not as astute in certain areas, I would like to speak to the experts regarding my questions. And right now, I do not have a question for you.
Okay.
We can meet one day this week.
Okay.
If your schedule permits, Trustee Dooley, we can make sure that we meet with Jeff and Sydney this week, as early as tomorrow.
That won't be good for me. I work tomorrow, unless you want to do an evening meeting.
Okay, we'll get together.
That's fine.
Okay,
Dr.
thank
Leverett,
you.
whenever that meeting is conducted, please include me in that as well.
Absolutely.
Treasurer Terry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you could just do a brief explanation on what the switching is for those that do not know.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Treasurer Terry. So the network switching is all of the backbone that controls all of our computers, our wireless access points, our phone systems. So we have racks of network switching, and basically anything you do on the computer goes through a network switch, out to Oakland schools on the internet, and then off to, Never Land out there. So the switching does all of the changes that you need to do. It's basically like the plumbing of your household.
And one more question. Was there any specific timing? I know you mentioned some federal funding and stuff. Is there a window that we need to be, I guess, aware of?
We do have to make this, thank you. We have to have this go to the federal government through the E-rate process for mid-March to have it all approved.
So I would assume this is part of the budget that we had to put.
Correct.
So, yeah, I need to get some information before I could vote.
Sure. And as part of the bond, we have a budget designated for technology. And of that would be a refresh of computers, the network, the wireless, the smart boards, all of those different components. So as we're coming toward the tail end of this bond cycle, this is one of the final projects that we're working on.
So is it fair to say that the money that was allocated for this project, you've come under budget or right at budget, or will we go over budget to complete this project?
No.
And will it?
This
No
is
what?
within allocation. This is within allocation.
Within allocated funds? I look forward to meeting with you.
And I also wanted to just share to Trustee Dooley and others, this information was included in our bid packet. So even though I understand you have additional questions, but sometimes if you can just send those questions ahead of time. So if there's anything specific, we can make sure that our presenters have the information and they could also provide it during our meeting so everybody can hear, because they may have some of the same questions that you have.
I certainly will do that, President Hanna. However, I was believing that we would have had some kind of study session, especially because the budget is there. Knowing that I'm new, I'm only speaking for me, and I would have wanted, and in my reading of the policies or stuff that I should expect, it was stated that in writing, the interim superintendent or designate would be the ones that take us through this. So it's basically, yes, I've gotten the packets, but I've had no one to communicate it with. So as Dr. Leverett has stated, she's going to bring us together to speak, and then I'm going to certainly formulate questions that can be answered, so I'll be able to facilitate as a great board member.
Yes, trustee Gross?
Thank you. And that's a good point, because understanding and knowledge, you're not going to vote on something you have no knowledge or understanding of. I have a suggestion, if possible, as we go forward. If there are specific agenda items that we're looking at to be approved ahead of time, especially items such as this that can be discussed prior to, my recommendation is that we bring these matters to board governance. We sit down and discuss these. Dr. Leverett brings them and her team just discuss this. And then when we come to a board meeting, the job is only to vote, yay or nay. But we will have knowledge of what it is that we're looking at. So this information will be shared not only, technology, through your phone or computer, but we'll be able to discuss these things ahead of time if you have the knowledge of what it is that we're seeking to vote on, so we can have a clear understanding of what we need to do. And then in the meeting here, as we discussed before, we'll be able to just vote on them or not, but that discussion will already be done. That's just a suggestion or recommendation.
A statement as well. Thank you for your presentation. To follow up with what Trustee Gross was saying, it is getting rather frustrating for me as a board member. I read all 174 pages of the initial packet, and now 124 pages. I read them word for word and page for page. So therefore, it's not as I'm doing my due diligence as a board member, but there are some things that I'm just not privileged to, or I don't have understanding to, the rationale behind it, the background information, or I just need a little bit of information. As new board members, I'm going to speak for myself and Trustee Dooley, I would appreciate more of a wraparound for us, instead of being like, oh my God, you guys are new, y'all don't understand, but we're supposed to come here and vote and put our name behind something, and we don't know what the heck is going on. Not we, Tanisha, Trustee Miller, don't know what's going on. And then we ask questions. Sometimes I'll get a response through email, sometimes I don't. So how am I supposed to come here and be prepared to put my name behind something? And sometimes I don't even get a response through email. I don't get a response. I don't get any educational background information. I don't get anything. But it just fall back on, oh, she knew. I'm still a board member, though. So as you seasoned and more veteran board members, why don't y'all wrap around us new members and facilitate us so that we can be successful, so we can facilitate this district? It's not about us or a body. We're supposed to govern this district. And if we aren't equipped to do that, how can we expect to equip our kids, our staff, our teachers, and everybody else?
Anybody else have any comments?
Trustee Miller and Trustee Dooley, as always, I can't speak for any other trustee, but if you all have questions, you're more than welcome to give a call. I have extended myself to whatever regard. So if there are questions, but I mean, what would you all prefer for us to call you weekly? How does that look? What does it look like for us to be better board members, to help wrap around to support you better? How does it look to answer questions if we don't know? So I'm just asking, what does that look like for us to support you all better?
Group studies. If we could come together, if we could come together and go over the various documents prior to coming out here to vote. I don't want to have an individual call because I have trust issues. So I need everybody to hear the same thing, because it's already apparent that we all don't see the same thing. We're already dealing with documents that were said we received, we didn't. So let's come together as a group and help us. Excuse me?
Is the expectation weekly to come together as a group to discuss?
As needed.
So what does that look like? As needed, how do you all?
I can do it weekly, because we weekly come together, and we'll weekly probably have something to negotiate, vote on. So I don't have a problem meeting weekly. I'm retired.
But thank you, Trustee Gross, for the recommendations, and Trustee Miller for your comments, as well as Trustee Dooley. That's definitely something that we can take into consideration, but I definitely want us to stay on topic because we have our presenter here, so that we can continue to move through our agenda. Everything that has been said will be noted, and we will definitely look at how we can address it so that we are making sure everybody feels included and no one does not feel like they're not being made aware of the information, long as we're not violating the Open Meetings Act, and we just be mindful of how we're meeting to conduct such. But we'll definitely address that so that we're all working as one, and so that we can all stay on the same page so we can do what we're supposed to do, and that's govern the district. Trustee Miller, you had something else?
Yes, absolutely. Out of respect for time, I know we have to move forward, but Vice President Bowman did ask a question specifically to Trustee Dooley and myself. You asked what it would look like for us to feel like we're prepared. I'm going to go all the way back to onboarding. Onboarding was supposed to be conducted that included a budget, that included contracts, that included a whole lot of things outlined in our board policies that we never received. We received an orientation and we received some of the items, but we didn't receive everything. So when it's time for us to vote on things that are unknown to us, we've never physically read or had the opportunity to see, let's go all the way back to that. Start us off being prepared with the documents that are outlined in our own board policies. I'm not asking for anything out of the ordinary, anything extraordinary. Follow our board policy for onboarding. Let's start right there with that, please, and thank you.
All right. Any other questions regarding our item B?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Trustee Gross.
Hearing the comments that have been made, it appears that both of these items, I'm just assuming, that we should take a second look at before we even put a motion on the floor to approve, to possibly tabling these until information is shared, that all board members have a clear understanding of what they're voting on. And we need to get a timeline on when this needs to be approved in order to get the reimbursements from this. But I think it's highly important that every board member should feel comfortable in voting on what they feel is needed for the district, but they need to have prior information and understanding of what they're voting for. That is the time of board governance, where we all sit together in this room and discuss everything we need to discuss that's placed on the agenda. So, and instead of having him come back for the next presentation, it's apparent that there's going to be concerns with the next presentation. Am I correct? There's another one, right?
Yes.
And
Item C.
yes, and so I'm asking that if we discuss possibly tabling these two until everyone is on board. Absolutely. And then we'll move forward from there and just continue the agenda, and we can get out of here.
Is there a time sensitive, when does it need to be approved by?
As I said, it's mid-March that has to be approved by.
Okay, well, we have another meeting, our next meeting is March 3rd,
Which your board governance is not
I
until,
believe. March 10th
yes.
is board governance.
So you have a board meeting on the 3rd, board governance on the 10th. So
And then our meeting after that is when?
the 17th.
So if we bring it back, is that
We'll leave it to
pushing
the
it?
15th.
The 15th?
I'll have to double check on the exact date.
Okay,
So you can also discuss and vote in the board governance.
so we can table it
You can
until
vote, you can discuss and vote in the board governance to send forward.
So we'll postpone it to our March 10th meeting. Okay. Can I get a motion to table this discussion and approval until our?
Motion to table both.
Yeah. Second.
But not a board governance where we can discuss everything. Yeah. So we're going to table both items, B and C, and approval of item B and C until our board governance meeting on March the 10th.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you. It's been seconded by Trustee Gross that we table items B and C, as well as action items B and C until our March 10th board governance meeting. Any questions? Roll call, please. Me?
President Allen,
Yes.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Treasurer Terry,
Yes.
Trustee Bowman?
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Dooley?
Yes.
And Trustee Grouch?
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Continuing on our agenda, moving down to General Counsel Human Resource items, curriculum and instructions. Dr. Leverett?
Yes, at this time, we will have a report on potential future partnership for the 25-26 school year. Dr. Devison.
Testing, good. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Just wanted to present to you an opportunity to do some work with mentorship for the 26-25 school year. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I will read the main points. So the first statement says, "Dear Pontiac community partners, I hope this message finds you well and thriving in your mission to support our community. As we continue to invest in the future of Pontiac, I'm reaching out to invite you to join us in an extraordinary opportunity to shape the lives of our youth. This will be for 8th graders going into 9th grade, and we are asking that we get mentors to make a commitment of a 4-year commitment to mentoring, be a role model, collaborate with us, and we're reaching out to community partners such as Oakland University, Pontiac United Education Coalition, Pontiac Collective Impact, Pontiac Optimist Club, and churches in the community. Ultimately, the goal is to offer mentorship for 4 years, starting in the 8th grade, follow them for 4 years with the hopes that we will be able to graduate students and then follow them after graduation. So this is just a proposal saying we want to start a mentoring program and to reach out to the community and get the commitment from the different community leaders.
All right, thank you, Dr. Devison. Trustees, any questions for, yes, VP Bowman?
This mentoring program, are you looking to make it a one-to-one, or is this more of a group setting, or is it still just real fresh and we just know we want mentors in the district?
The goal is to do one-to-one. Currently, we have 286 8th graders, so the goal is to have one-to-one so that we get the commitment for someone to follow for 4 years. But as you said, we are still working out the logistics, but the ultimate goal is one-to-one.
Dr. Jefferson, how are you this evening?
Good.
How is this program going to be paid for?
So we have grant funds, but we have not got to that portion yet. To date, there is a program called Imagine that is doing tutoring in the district, and so we are going to work with Imagine and grants because there is funds out there for mentoring. So to date, we have not discovered that. We want to make sure that, number one, the community will make the commitment. We're going to have a meeting with the community, and then we'll take it from there. But we have been working with Diane to talk about grant funds.
And then when we talk about the 4-year commitment for the mentors, what's the requirements for that? Have you worked those logistics out yet?
So the requirements, of course, will be to make sure that it's safe and that they follow the protocol that the district has as it relates to making sure that they could work with a student. And then again, we are still designing the program.
So is it possible just to kind of make sure that we maybe team them up with a professional, somebody, career-based? I'll get with you, Dr. Jefferson, because I think it would be I think this is a great idea to mentor, but we want to make sure that we're mentoring in the right perspective. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we team them, and that if 4 years commitment, perhaps someone wanted to be in a health practitioner or something, we team them with a nurse or someone with background in science. I was just wondering, would you be able to
Those exactly is the idea. So we're going to be soliciting fraternities, sororities, people that work in those guidelines, and there will be forms that will align them to just that work.
And then they'll also have to have that background check. Is that's
Absolutely. That's number one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, trustees? No. Thank you,
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
All right, moving on down the agenda, we are now at communications, petitions, and delegations. Do we have any, VP?
There are none.
All right, board comments, we're going to start over to my right with trustee Miller. Have any board comments or announcements?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to everyone in the audience. Good evening. Good evening to all the trustees, Dr. Leverett, everybody here at this table. Good evening to all those that are watching from home. All right, so as you can see, things have been a bit contentious around here with us. We are in us as a community, look at what's going on around here with our kids, with everything. We are in a state of emergency. You know, as a board, my dedication is for these kids, one of which is my own at the high school. Let me remind everybody of that. So I'm not going to let this district fail, because if I fail my kid, I fail as a parent. I'm too powerful of a parent to fail at that. In addition to that, Dr. Leverett, you sent the email this morning as it relates to, it went to all staff about the morale and things of that. And you said that they've been heard, and you're going to have a listening session, right, with the consultant?
That's correct, yes.
And I appreciate your diligence in trying to rectify that. Our staff, this is my first time hearing of it. And in the email, it said that you've been working diligent with the board. I've heard nothing of it besides today when I got the email with all the staff, which was disappointing to me. Because if I had been asked, I would have said, you know what? We can have a listening session with this board, and it doesn't violate policy if we're just listening and we're not engaged in any contract talks or anything of that sort. It doesn't violate the policy. So before we paid a consultant to listen, why can't we listen to our own staff? Why don't we extend that to them out of respect? These are the people that we entrust to be with our kids. These people spend more time with our kids than we do at home. These kids are in school 8 hours out of the day. And if they feel like crap going into our buildings, it's our job. It's our job to repair that. Who better to do that than the people who they elected for us to be here? Not somebody we got to pay. We're in a $2.9 million deficit. Why are we paying anybody anything right now? We could have did that for free. For free, we could have did that. Sit and listen. They deserve to be listened to. At minimum, as a board, that's what we should be doing. For our staff, that's with our kids. I'm not yelling. I'm not upset. I'm frustrated. The morale is low. Our kids are failing. We got kids doing... We have to start right now with this district and with this community to do something different than what we've been doing right now. Not tomorrow, not a minute from now, yesterday. We have to. So I'm going to call out to everybody on that video and everybody in this audience. Y'all want to do something different? Y'all know how to contact me, okay? I'm not going to let this community fail, period. That means I failed my kid, and I failed every kid out there that's in this district, and them all my kids right now, and I ain't going to let them fail. I'll say it.
All right. I'm going to move right around. Trustee, Treasurer Terry, we'll go to you.
Clarity that we're not in a deficit, just a FYI, just a point of clarity.
Okay.
But you are correct.
Thank you.
You are correct with the amendment and what's showing. But as overall, though, the district is not in a deficit. So just be.
I read all 174 pages. It said $2.9 million.
All right. Thank you, Ms.
The overall budget,
Secretary.
general fund budget, just clarity. But you are correct.
Secretary Davis Smith.
Good evening, everyone. That was a great, I'm shocked. When Mr. Sanders, what you guys are doing and stuff, and how you brought to us what you guys are doing, I'm grateful. I've witnessed a lot of it, and I'm glad that you see progress with our students and things of that nature, and so I'm grateful for that. Like we say, like you were saying, if you show any progress, that's great. Yes. But one thing I do want to say is that, not with you guys, but us in general, that I believe that we need to start wanting more for our children by setting the bar higher. You know what I mean? And so, because I know that they can do it, if we set it there for them, they will try harder to get there. I understand what you're saying, Trustee Miller because my kids graduated from the Pontiac School District, and I came on the board as a parent. I'm not a politician, so I'm just a parent and a business owner and a homeowner here in our city. And so I want what's best for our kids. My family has come through the Pontiac School District as well as me, and I want my grandkids to get the best education possible. I haven't had my my grandkids yet, but I want them to have a safe place to be. I want them to have a quality education. And that's why I plead to the parents, and not just the parents, because our parents, a lot of times, I was a working parent, so I changed my career so that I can be around my kids. So I worked in the school districts. I worked at Cranbrook first, and then when my son came to the middle school, I decided to work at the school district, and I took a pay cut and drove a school bus to come here so that I can be on the same schedule as my kid, because I wanted my child to have a quality education. And the only way that I was able to do that was to be on their time. Everybody is not able to do that. So I asked the community, we need tutors, we need volunteers, because our parents and family members aren't always able to do that. Our children need help reading, because if they can't read, they can't do math. And we need them to be able to do math as well as read. And so that's why my kids are successful, because I was there for them. I was there doing homework with them when I got off work and things like that. All of our kids don't have that. Mr. Sanders said today how a child is, going through things at home. I am a teacher now, so I see that with my own kids. I have kids that come in. I have 35 students in my class, and 4 of them wants to sleep all the time. And I allow them to sleep a little bit because I don't know what they're experiencing at home. I only teach kindergarten. One of my 4-year-olds lost their grandparent, and they didn't want them to even know that they lost their grandparent because they didn't know how they were going to explain that to a little person. So we're dealing with emotional behaviors and things like that. And so that's why I always say, we have to support our staff too, because our staff is dealing with that before they're even able to teach. Even me being a teacher now, I'm seeing it so much that I'm coddling kids, I'm everything to them before I can even teach them. I say from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock, I teach probably 3 hours out of that time that I can actually get some real progress done with school. So that's why I plead every board meeting that we need the family, friends, and whoever to read to our kids that's in elementary, to help our other students. We have a lot of students that's working and paying actual bills. I have worked after school, but I work for my tennis shoes. These kids is working because they have to work. So we're dealing with something totally different. So I'm pleading to the community, period. Teach one, reach one. So good night, everybody. I just want all of us in our Pontiac, period. We need prayer, period. So that's all I have to say. Good night, you guys.
Great. Thank you. Trustee Gross.
Thank you.
Have anything?
Good evening, all. I'll be brief. What a good discussion. But I go back to the beginning when I first came back on the board back in 2020. And I talked about how important it is that we all be on the same page. There's only one page in this district, and that's to ensure that our children are safe and being educated. We all responsible for that. At this table, teachers, administrators, everybody. That is our main responsibility. Now, how we get there is what we decide here. But we all have to be on the same page. Everyone has to have the same understanding of what they're doing. Been questioned a lot. Why did you come back? This is my 13th year, and through 4 elections, I came back because I love what I do for these children. Now, you made an excellent statement about people coming here to see us. Before people can come see us, they have to trust us. They have to trust the fact that what is said here stays here. There's no retaliation. Or you're going to get an anonymous letter stating that you're a backbiter, backslider. I'm just saying, these are the things that we need to take a look at to get a clear understanding of what the expectations are of all of us. Right? Because we're in this thing together. Now, for the last 2.5, 3 years, it has been my goal to have an emphasis on attendance. There's nothing that we can teach or preach or show or do if a child is not sitting in the seat. Now, we can see what happens when a child doesn't come to school. And I won't go there. But I'm reaching out. I've had a conversation with the superintendent, and I'm reaching out to everybody that's involved that has an integral part in the attendance of our children. First of all, be honest with your numbers. Don't come and present to us that you have 95% attendance. In actuality, you only have 55. Don't do that. Be honest with your numbers. Work diligently with whatever that word is, with those who are involved in the attendance of our children. Let's get that right first. You cannot teach an empty chair. You can't. But we talk about all the programs we have in place to assist our kids academically, but we can't utilize those programs if the children aren't there. Now, this recent incident has opened up the doors in every district in the state of Michigan, around the United States, how important it is for our kids to be in attendance. If not, we need to know where they are. So listen, and I'm not, yeah, I am, I'm going to do that. I wasn't heard before, but I'm asking that I be heard now. We're going to have a school improvement committee meeting. I'm inviting the principals to have school improvement plans. This is no attack on them, which I was told before, that I was attacking the principals and they felt like they're going to get fired. No, because I'm not a fortune teller, but I can see what happens when our kids aren't here. I know it. I worked in the system for 40 years, dealing with truancy for 40 years. So it's time out for excuses. We have a saying, and I'm going to finish with this. In my fraternity, we had a saying that they instilled into my mind, and it talks about excuses. Not reasons, but excuses. And they instilled that in me, and it says, excuses are a sign of weakness, for they build bridges leading to nowhere. For those who use these tools of incompetence are masters of nothingness. I say to this board, I say to this administration, I say to our teachers, I say to the janitors, the bus drivers, I say to everybody, no more excuses. Good night.
All right, thank you, Trustee Gross. Trustee Dooley?
Good evening to each and every one of you, especially to those 7,617 voters that elected me. Now, I have been very busy, but I want to first start out to extend an apology to anyone who has tried unsuccessfully to reach this district by phone and have possibly come in contact with people being rude and disrespectful. I certainly apologize on behalf of the entire board. Now, I have been busy. I have been busy learning. I have taken superintendent evaluation and rater reliability training. You must have that training to evaluate the superintendent, and the interim superintendent evaluation should be coming. I've taken school finance, school law, curriculum and instruction, the Open Meetings Act. However, I need to take that again because I tend to get it wrong. Teacher effectiveness and governing through policy. I am scheduled to take additional classes. I'm taking those classes so I can represent the board, so I can be accountable for what I was elected to do, to help govern the district, to show transparency, to understand the budget, so I'll know when we 2.9 million, what you say, trustee treasurer, that we're in a deficit but not in a deficit. So I need to understand all of that. So I'm trying to educate myself. I'm trying to educate myself again to represent those 7,617 people that voted me. I also extend an invitation to those of you that are here. Please come back every meeting. Don't leave us here by ourselves. And those of you that are watching, every seat should be filled, because I cannot represent you if you are not talking to me. And on that note, I am thinking about, and I took this from another trustee, not necessarily, but we're going to do possibly a Monday motivation in the mornings, meeting with people, so I can have your concerns and bring them back to the district. One of the things that I did learn in one of those classes, it is imperative and it is incumbent that I create relationships. I must create the relationships with all educational stakeholders. So the cabinet, you may have a concern. I need to hear it. Teachers, you may have a concern. Marvin's maintenance staff, they may have a concern. The public, you have a concern. I need to know your concerns, and I'll be listening. I don't have to comment, but I want you to know that you can be heard, and I can come back and share that with the interim superintendent, our president, and my other colleagues that represent the 7-member board, that we endeavor to move this district forward. All roads lead to academic achievement that's sustainable, growth in our students that can be measured. We must be data-driven, and many of us do know data. I know it. Kevin, I'm glad you joined the group. It's very good when you can be deliberate and intentional in your quest. So thank you for coming out tonight, those of you that are in the audience. Hey, TV land. Thank you for tuning in, and I look for you to come back next week. It's been a great meeting. I enjoyed the dialogue, and I guarantee you, someone is going to teach me about this budget, about the TAN and all the stuff we took off. I got about a couple more seconds. The tax anticipation note resolution, renewal of the financial advisory services agreement. We're going to get all of that understood so I can cast the proper vote. You know where you can find me. I'm here every Monday. Come early if you want to talk. And with that, may God continue to bless and keep us, and may you have sweet rest. Good night.
Treasurer Terry.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to keep it short and to the point. First off, I just want to say individual boards don't speak for the board in whole. Things you may hear is pretty much from an individual standpoint, unless it's basically, I guess, announced from the whole board. So I just want to make that clear. Second off, regarding the finances, I know everyone here is not privileged to that as well, but obviously there's some learning to be done as well. It's kind of like short, you have in your checkbook, and you know how much you got in there to spend. If you know you're going to run short, then obviously you need to make those adjustments. That does not mean that necessarily you're going to be broke, or it doesn't necessarily mean that you're in a negative. It just means that there's adjustments to be done within your spending habits that need to change. Second off, I just want to say thank you for the presentation from communities and schools. Thank you also for the gift. I haven't looked at them yet, but I appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do. Your results are not going unnoticed. So we appreciate all the hard work that you do and your commitment here to these kids in these schools. So I want to say thank you for all of that. And in addition to that, I want to say keep this city in prayer, if you could. Keep this district in prayer. There's a lot of changes that are coming, and they're coming quick. And as your one of your board elected officials up here, that means there's going to be changes, I guess you want to say, in the district as well. And how we address those and how we, I guess, tackle those hurdles as a group, as a board, as we function as a whole to govern this district is going to play a big role. We're learning, so don't take nothing any wrong things that's been said or whatever. We're a learning board right now, even myself. Granted, yeah, I know I didn't take a lot of classes. I got all the pens to show all the reflections and everything else, which is good. Ain't nothing wrong with awards and stuff, but it's all about how you apply that knowledge. It's all about how you apply the things that you learn, how you bring that to the board, and how you make that function as a team. And sometimes it takes a growing curve for everyone to work as a team. I know it was mentioned, I know it was said a couple times, trust is very big. In any relationship, you need to have that trust to try to move forward. Not that anybody here, I want to say this on this board, because I believe all my trustees here that got elected in for these students. It ain't necessarily about us. It's about these kids. It's about our staff. It's about our administration that we hold accountable to make things happen, to give these kids the best education that they can have. And on that note, I just want to say thank you. Been a good night, and I'll see you guys at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Terry. VP Bowman.
Good evening, everyone. This was a wonderful meeting, and I'm glad to be here. I just wanted to leave. There's a opening of Soulful Stitches, open February 22nd from 6 to 9 p.m. This is at the Pontiac Creative Arts Center. It's in church. It opened February 22nd. It goes until March 15th. So if anyone gets a chance, please feel free to go take a look at the exhibit. It's very nice. Our community clearly needs healing, prayer, meditation, whatever you want to call it. There's a fracture in our community amongst the leadership, amongst the people in general, just in any regard. We all need to take a look at ourselves and find out what place we want to hold at the end of this, because when it's all said and done, the only person who can judge your heart is yourself. Everyone is going to have their opinion, and they're going to look on you and whatever they feel is their opinion, but only you can speak from your heart and decide on why you made whatever decisions moving forward. I really hope that as a community we can look at a lot of the things that's been going on as families, how within silos when we don't speak, how young people can get lost and fall by the wayside and not be acknowledged for years because people continue to work within these silos and not work together. If there's a cry of any, that cry is now. We need to continue, I can't even say continue. We need to work together. We need to put down our defenses on whatever it is and be open and honest and willing to go to one another as community members, as people, as a parent, anyone who look at the state of the community which we're in. When we look next door, there's problems. When we look here, there's problems. But everybody keeps pointing the finger. When we're going to put the fingers down and say, let's get in it. Let's get in it, 10 toes down in it, and let's get to work. Stop pointing fingers, because we all are complicit in how our community looks at this point in time. Every single one of us are complicit in where we stand. So we can continue to point the finger and say how we're not progressing, or we can actually work together and progress. All I know is, born and raised right here, I don't want to say unfortunately, but my address has changed within the city of Pontiac, but it's never left. Every single part of Pontiac I represent because I've lived on every single side of town. At the end of the day, I'm for this community. Whatever anybody want to say about this school district, I know that I show up and make decisions on the best interest of students. I'm not here for a great old paycheck because, as we know, it's not that. I'm here because no matter what happens, at the end of the day, Pontiac is home. We need to take care of home. We have not been doing that. We need to get it together. That starts at the top and it trickles down. So whatever that looks like, whatever listening circles with or without a consultant, with or without individuals who come with solutions. Don't come to just talk. I'm not going to use that word. Come with solutions, not problems. Solutions. We already know we have a bunch of problems. Come with solutions so that we can continue to move forward. I love this community. I love my board, and I'm 100% positive that in spite of the distrust, in spite of the fracture right now, that we will continue to move forward and continue to rise, because that's what we do. I didn't come here to fail, and I don't plan on it. So we got to get it in gear, get it together, and keep pushing forward, because that's how we win, not continuing to look back. So it's been great. Good night.
Thank you very much, VP. I want to say thank you to Minister Sanders, to Sarah, right? The work that you do is so important. We hear and some probably and kind of mentioned some of the challenges that our students have. And that's just what we deal with within urban communities. And it's not just here in Pontiac, but it's in a lot of our urban communities. We see and hear of a lot of the same challenges. But I am appreciative of the work that CIS is doing to help service our whole student. So for that, Minister Sanders, I have seen you in your ministry outside of the school, and I'm happy to see that that same passion and that same dedication that you have outside of the school, you're able to bring that into the school and service our students. So I just wanted to say thank you for what you do, as well as the whole team over there, specifically at the middle school where you work, but just all of our teachers and staff that continue to show up every single day to service and pour into our students despite everything. There is a lot of tension in our nation right now, as well as our local community. There's a lot of tension. But a lot of this, and we talk about our students suffering, but so much of the issues that we're dealing with are adults. And so those adult issues, however they appear, they impact our students. And so when we come to this space as the board of the school district for the city of Pontiac, we have to know how or think about whatever issues we have as adults. Those need to be secondary, because when we're in here, the only thing that matters is the decisions that we make as it relates to our students. Only way this is a new board because we've had elections this year. And so just as any new team is formed, it takes time for everybody to get their rhythm. It takes time. It doesn't automatically just mush, but one thing you cannot come to a new team with is without trust. I may not have worked with our new trustee Miller or our trustee Dooley, but because we're all here to support this school district, then there automatically has to be a level of trust. And even if that trust takes time to build, the one thing that should not be missing is respect. We are all adults here, and I think that because we are all adults, we need to respect one another as adults. I don't think disrespect should be tolerated at any level. If we as a board could not function as a board, then what type of message does that send to our administration? What type of message does that send to our community? What type of message does that send for this city? And so our responsibility as elected officials, it is to conduct ourselves with respect as we build trust with one another, because we are all here because we want to make sure that the City of Pontiac School District is better than it was before we got here. The challenges of our district, the challenges of our community didn't start yesterday. They didn't start last week. The issues and challenges of this community have been here, but for those of us that have a privilege that get to lead this school district, we have to take that obligation to do our best to make sure that we're trying to make it better than what it was before. I appreciate being able to serve the Pontiac community in this fashion. I do not have all the answers, nor have I ever presented myself as one that was perfect. But what I do is I show up every single time that I'm here in this space, and that is to represent myself, represent this community, and represent and be an advocate for our students. And so I don't take that lightly. I take that as a privilege that I get to do that, and I don't tend to walk on anybody else, use anybody else, disrespect anybody else along the way, because my obligation is to be an advocate for those students, regardless of a title that is before my name. So I think I have showed up in that fashion, regardless of where I sit, but most importantly, I show up this way in community because of the job that I have and because of the person that I am. So I just want to challenge all of our board members to remember that we are here for our students. We are here for our students. We are here for our students. And so I want to say again, thank you for our teachers, for our staff. Thank you for those that do come out and support and watch it. Thank you for our gift. Appreciate that. But again, we ask that you continue to support us as we continue to do our best to do what is in the best interest of our students and the administration for the City of Pontiac. And so with that, I am done, and I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Support?
It has been moved by Trustee Dooley, supported by VP Bowman, to adjourn the meeting. Are there any questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Miller? Yes. Treasurer Terry?
Yes.
VP Bowman?
Yes.
I'm voting yes. Trustee Dooley?
Yes.
Trustee Grove?
Yes.
President Hannah?
Yes.
That passes 7-0.
Thank you. The meeting is now adjourned at 7:32 p.m.